Stay tuned to this episode, guys. This is my favorite podcast I've ever done in my life. I've done a lot. I'm with a very good friend of mine, someone I look up to in ways he doesn't understand, Brandon Saho. We talk about why we have mental health issues, think where they stem from, practical advice on how to make it better, but also opening up the conversation to people that are really struggling and not being scared to talk about it. It's an incredible episode. Get your popcorn, get your water. Hope you're listening to it on the way to work, but please don't skip. Listen to the whole entire thing. I promise you'll benefit from it. Welcome back to Contrast Studios Live. It's your host, Patrick Coyne, with a very close friend of mine, someone I'm very proud of, someone that we've grown together, cried together, done a lot of cool things together, and now we're here. But Brandon is a former athlete turned news reporter who put everything aside and chased his true passion of mental health and raising awareness with kids, raising awareness with adults, and just kind of being a true spokesperson for the city of Cincinnati.
That is like big honors.
Thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, man. Yeah, like you said, we've cried together. We've done a lot of things together, whether it's sports, off the field, mental health, physical health. Yeah, man, I'm excited to talk. I talk about you every time I talk about mental health because at my low, you were there for me. So this means a lot. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. That means a lot too. We just got done with the plunge, and I'm excited to dive into some things, but we just got done with the sauna and plunge. Your first time doing it. I'm very excited that I was your first.
Yeah, there we go.
But for right now, for everything's kind of coming down, your adrenaline's coming down, how do you feel?
I feel awesome. I'm a snow skier, you know that. So like I'm used to being cold. That was different than something I've ever felt before. But it's like, I can understand why Sam and you have told me to come try it and to do it, because it's like, you feel your whole body. And like you're coaching me through it, which we saw some video of. But it was like, it was so strange and different, but like in a good way. Yeah. I had never really got into my physical health throughout high school, college that much after my punting days in high school. But like I always followed your journey, and so then I started getting into finally working out like 2-3 years ago. And so I have something like this right after, like, oh my God, it was so cool.
What do you, the body is one thing, and the body and mind are separate and together, however you want to define it, but what's your mood like? Like, I think it's a really good thing. I don't want to answer for you, but.
No, it's like, this is the best time I could do it because like I'm in the middle of touring the country and I'm living in LA, I'm on the East Coast, like it's insane right now. So after 2 events this morning and another one tonight, like this is the perfect way to like just kind of calm down physically and mentally. Like I felt really, really peaceful during it. Like you gave me the tip to just afterwards kind of just sit there and soak it in. And you were talking about prayer and meditation. Sam tells me about meditation all the time. I'm too like energetic to do meditation.
Yeah, I struggle with it too.
But the slow breathing thing really does help me. But like even sitting in the sauna, like I love music. And so that is so relaxing to sit in there with the music and just kind of like, you can just feel your body heating up. And then the cold plunge was just, I don't know, it was really different. What did you think my reaction was going to be?
I mean, from someone who suffers with crippling anxiety, a lot of times sensations that are strong and very abrupt, like it happens quick, sometimes can freak people like us out. Start hyperventilating. So I had an idea of saying you might hyperventilate a little bit because it is the first time. But once you get through that, like you step through the veil of the unknown, as they say, on the other side of that is bliss. So like I say, it's the only time my brain's ever quiet. Because I don't take medication anymore, but the only time my brain is ever truly quiet is after a really hard lift, a really hard run. But that's so consistent because it lasts for 3 to 4 to 5 hours after my plunge to where I'm here, I'm in the room. I'm not in the past, I'm not in the present. I'm right where my feet are at. Yeah. So that's the biggest takeaway for me, and that's worth any amount of money, any amount of suffering in the cold, any amount of heat in the sauna, just to be present.
Oh, I felt, like you mentioned the hyperventilating. You were coaching me through the breathing, like right when I got in the tub, and it was just, I needed that because I felt myself, like I'm a very reactionary person, and we can get into this later, but like, you know, from like the drug and alcohol use in my past, like feelings are definitely something that I crave. I mean, even emotional or physical, but,
for sure.
So that was like weird at first, getting used to that. And like my toes were tingling, those were super cold, but I loved it. It was really cool and unique, and I can see why you guys love it and open these studios.
It's an addiction. I mean, whether that's the dopamine or norepinephrine or adrenaline, but I mean, for me, it's something that brings a sense of bringing my body and mind together.
Yeah,
like I'm usually suffering internally. My body seems fine, but those two things blended together, I feel like my body and mind meet, and I can kind of just relax, take a breath.
There's very few things that can peacefully bring your mental and physical health together, like working out, recovery, which this is combining the two, and then some type of meditation or prayer or just talk therapy. Yeah. But like you're right. There's very few times where you're just sitting there and like not thinking. And I felt that. Like I have, like you, a bunch of texts and emails and things to do today, but like just in that moment,
you're good.
I felt like me. Like it was cool.
And I think the interesting thing is everything that brings us peace has to be induced by an external stress. So like you don't just get peace.
Right.
Gaining peace takes suffering, right? So whether that's understanding how hard meditation is for some people, understanding how hard working out is for some people, understanding how hard getting in the sauna and plunge, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But with an external stress can bring bliss. And I think that's really, really, really important to understand. And I think it's really cool that you can get that in 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It's there.
I did not know what to expect. I'll be completely honest with you. I was nervous about being a little wimp with the cold, but yeah, it was. I mean,
you did a good job.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I really enjoyed it, and I think it does just reset your whole mental, physical system where it's like, oh, I feel fresh. Like I have a bunch of stuff to do after this, and I'm glad I can do it now too.
Yeah, because you have energy.
Yeah, I feel
you have energy, you have patience, right? So I'm a huge fan of your podcast. I always give you crap because I haven't been on the podcast,
I know,
but that's okay.
We'll
get you on here first. But my big thing is you always ask people, what does mental health mean to you? I think it's a very cool duality now. I get asked the question to you. What does mental health mean to you?
I started asking the question and I didn't have an answer for myself.
That's the beautiful thing. You have to think about it.
I know. Now I've had time to think about it because people start turning it on me. Yep. That's a good thing. When people meet me out, at a restaurant or something, they ask me, what does it mean to you? Mental health to me is loving yourself and finding how to be the best you. For a long, long time, I didn't love myself. I didn't know what that meant. I was looking for external gratification and find that happiness, whether it be job or, the biggest thing in my life was finding that relationship with another person. And so it is just loving yourself and taking care of yourself. And I didn't do that truly until like a year and a half ago. And I think a lot of things went into that, whether it be taking care of my mental health, physical health, emotional health, relationships, work-life balance. I mean, our stories are very similar with the things that we've been through. Obviously, like we are going to talk about it, I'm sure, the things we went through when we were younger, but like, it's just, for me, loving yourself and figuring out how to be the best version of yourself, that is my best answer to that question. But what I love is whenever I ask that, I hear something new. It is crazy to hear so many different answers from people like Kevin Gates, Terry Crews, you, whoever it is, because it doesn't define us, but we can all be relatable with it because we all experience mental health.
But what I want people to understand, and what I always talk about anytime I get a chance to talk about mental health, or talk to a kid after a session, or talk to a professional athlete, whatever that may be, talk to a client at contrast or a member, mental health isn't something that goes away because you're doing a modality.
Yep.
If you are born with, and you are born with it, it does have your environment, your ecosystem as a kid, your trauma, all these things kind of lead to it. But mental health, just because you feel good at one point, doesn't mean it's not going to come back and slap you in the back of the head. So it's something that I always want people to understand. It's like, if you suffer with this one day, that's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Just like your good qualities. If you're a happy person, you're a happy person, regardless of how sad you are. Those mental health struggles aren't going to go anyway. So what are we going to do to continue to help people cope with it?
Yeah. You don't beat it. You have to keep always working on it.
Yes. And it is an identity of you. Like, I am a trainer, I am a business owner, I also suffer from crippling anxiety. That is who I am, that is why I work fast, it's why I move fast, it's why I do a lot of things. But I want people to start to embrace the mental health journey, because in the duality sense, your weakest parts of you can also be your biggest strengths. Like, you're empathetic because of what you've been through.
Yeah.
I help people with anxiety because I suffer from it every single day.
You understand it.
So, speaking on anxiety or vulnerability, like, we're vulnerable talking about this. There's no secret about that. I got tattoos and drive a truck and lift weights. I struggle with mental health. I'm not afraid to say that, and I'm open about it. But being, a former big-time quarterback who didn't make it, et cetera, vulnerability in sports is looked at as weakness. Like, you're not supposed to be vulnerable. You're not supposed to talk about it. Now it's trendy. But where's the fine line, and how do you find that it's okay to be vulnerable in the position that you're in? How does that make sense in your head? Is it because you're called to do it, or is it because you need to do it to feel better about yourself?
I think it just really has felt like my purpose, and I had no idea this is what I'd be doing. I mean, you've known me since I was 13 years old. I wanted to be a sports reporter.
Absolutely.
And that was like number one goal, just like I knew you wanted to be a quarterback. Like, it's just our goals, we had them at a young age, and that's why we're also sitting here today, because we followed them and worked really hard and worked our asses off to do it. But yeah, I mean, it has completely changed in sports. And I think, like, I look back and think about the things that people said about you because you worked hard, or like calling you certain names because you were always in the gym. Like, it's like, why are we putting somebody down for working hard or for being different? And what I've learned, because I got called weird and I was different, I did football and drama, and like, I feel I'd rather be weird or different than normal. And so that doesn't
Black sheep, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the coolest thing about Black Sheep Performance, is that is you from the day I met you in the most positive way. But it has changed a lot in sports. I mean, when I first started going in, these NFL and college locker rooms, I didn't know if there was a mental health coach or a psychiatrist on the team. The players definitely weren't talking about it. And then fast forward to when I go through all my stuff, I mean, I just remember I kept it all in. You knew some things that people didn't know. But when it came out, and like I put out a letter on social media, you reached out really fast. A lot of people did, but when in the sports world, I mean, Sam was one of the first guys, Coach Taylor, Joe Mixon, like these guys that you would think have this front and are supposed to be these big, badass professional athletes. Also, you talk about empathy. They have empathy for me because they've seen the journey, but we didn't talk about it before. Now it feels okay because of guys like Kevin Love, Ricky Williams, and just seeing them build that community. But yeah, it's completely changed. Like, when I did an event with Kevin Falk at LSU, and Joe Burrow's parents were there, and it was great. And Kevin said in front of a couple thousand people at LSU, if Brandon would have asked me to do this 5 years ago, there's no way in hell I would have done it.
Yep.
And it's because that stigma with mental health. So it really does feel like a purpose for me. And I think the advantage that I might have is that I was able to be in those locker rooms and watch athletes like you work at a high level, and then I can understand the mental health struggles because I've lived those too myself.
Well, I think no matter what field you're in or what you do, I think the hardest part is to realize the battles that men and women are fighting. We talk about men because we are men and we've had those experiences, but people get really good at putting on masks. Like, I call it putting on my Superman cape. I go through a lot on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. I go through a lot at home. I go through a lot. I struggle. And my wife tells me my biggest superpower is that I can put on my cape. No one really knows. And I think that putting on that cape, and there is a point in time where you do have to suck it up. You got to grit it out. There's a point in time as a man, that's what you're here to do. But on the other end is, you can put that cape on and that mask and still have a conversation. Like, I'm going to put my best foot forward. Yep. I'm going to be happy today. But at the same time, there's some things that I'm really dealing with, but I'm going to put that on hold because there's a bigger vision, a bigger purpose for me. And I think that athletes are the best at it because you're in front of 75,000 people in the game, 2 million on TV,
right.
All your followers, all these things, they think you're not a human versus, like, I'll talk about Sam. I don't care. Sam can get mad at me. I love you, Sam. But Sam on TV is not the Sam that watches Harry Potter and reads books at home. No one knows that.
Yeah.
But when you see Sam in public, how you doing? He's masculine. He's a good-looking dude, all these things. But when Sam goes home, he throws his glasses on, puts his slippers on, reads Harry Potter, and watches movies. He's a normal guy.
Yeah.
Every one of these people we idolize are normal human beings that fight the same struggles, the same battles me and you do, but they can't talk about it. Mm-hmm. Now I think with people like you, I don't play as big of a role in mental health as you do right now, but like it's starting the forefront, and it's breaking the dam. Like, it's literally opening up conversations for people who might not have had the conversation, or having a conversation with my dad,
right,
who does not.
Mm-hmm. My dad was the same way.
Understand mental health. Now he's willing to, like,
Same
I
here.
used to struggle with this, but it was being a man.
Yep.
Being a man doesn't mean shoving it down and being rude or crude to other people. We have to have a conversation about it. And after the conversation, you usually feel a little bit of weight because you're not alone.
Right. Well, two things. One, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today without Sam, because he let me test out the idea of a mental health podcast with athletes at his house. And so I have to give him all the credit in the world, because I wouldn't be here. There's two people I wouldn't be here without, that we're talking about right now. You when I was in high school, and Sam being able to help me, kind of launch the show. But the comment about your dad is what I understand a lot of, because my dad, when I called him at my rock bottom moment, told me, as I'm telling my dad I want to kill myself, fucking suck it up, figure it out, tough shit, be a man, and like, we're in a yelling match, and then hang up the phone. And it's like, what the fuck just happened? Like, how am I at my rock bottom and my dad's telling me to suck it up? And I always say this, and I tell that story all the time, because if people truly love and care about you, they will help you. They might not know how to help you at first. They might say the wrong thing at first. My dad certainly did. But if they truly love and care about you, they will help you. And within an hour, he calls back and he starts working with me and my mom to figure out how to find me the right therapist and hospital to start taking care of my mental health. But like, I mean, my dad didn't talk about it. Your dad never talked about it. And now it's created this open dialogue where we can talk about it moving forward, where, my dad's open with me about his alcoholism. Now, he's a very, very successful man in the finance world. He just retired. He's got all this money and a nice house and all that stuff. But he's... Doesn't mean you're happy. Exactly. And he is a happy guy a lot of the time, but he still struggles with the addiction. He's just at a point where, and I hope he's not mad that I'm throwing his laundry out there, but it's like, he's not willing to change like I was, because he's at this point in life where I've made it, I've done it, I've made all my money, I'm good, I'm still gonna keep drinking and all this stuff. Where me, on the other hand, I'm just getting started. Like, I have to put that aside. So, I mean, the mentality with men and like dads, it's so like, I'm so happy that you brought that up, because I had the same conversation with my dad, and it's still an ongoing conversation.
What helped me with my dad, and my dad is a true alpha male, from West Virginia, college football.
Let's say, is this where you get it all from?
Yeah. I get the empathy from my mom, because she's an ER nurse and she sees the bad things in life. But one thing I realized, and I made peace with my dad, and it wasn't even a conversation, it was realizing at the bare root of it that my dad really did try. His effort and my effort looked different. Yeah. His love and my love looked different. And accepting that and being like, all right, that's my dad's best version of himself. Yeah. It might come out as grit. Like I have it on my elbow. Nobody cares, work harder. Every time as a child, I'm dealing with this, and this. You got a scholarship of 14. No one gives a shit. Yep. Get back to work. That's my dad. That's my mom too. So like, looking back, I wouldn't be able to handle the amount of workload and capacity and various jobs, and if I didn't have that. So it's a duality, it's a balance. Right? So realizing your parents did your best is something that's given me a little bit of peace. But speaking on men, and I think it's a pretty crazy statistic that, it's 75% of the suicides in the world are men. Mm-hmm. We've probably answered the question, but if I asked you to give me 2 or 3 reasons why that is, what do you think?
I think the alone feeling is really, really big, because you're looking for something that's not inside yourself yet, or that you found that self-love. But like, relationships, jobs, our identity, especially as men, but just people in general, comes a lot on the premise of our job, our relationship, the car we drive, how we look. It's how we're judged by other men. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why men don't open up and talk about it or show their emotions, because they're worried someone gonna call. Am I allowed to cuss on this? Go ahead. I already said the F word, I think 2 or 3 times. Yeah. But like, you're worried somebody's gonna call you a bitch or a pussy, and like, you worry about that, and so that's why you don't say something. That was my whole thing. Like, I didn't want to be a bitch, and that's why I didn't tell anybody how I was feeling. And when I said that in the hospital, after not opening up for 2 or 3 days, the therapist that's leading this classroom setting that you're in for 90% of the time goes, "That's the problem right there, Brandon, with men's mental health, but mental health in general, because it's you're weak if you're vulnerable." So I think the vulnerability being a weakness instead of a strength, which is what it really is, that stigma is huge. I just think the societal pressure, there's pressure on everyone, but I think men put pressure on themselves maybe more than other people do, just because it's like, you have to live up to this standard, and like, in my head, I wanted to be married by this age, kids by this age, have this amount of money, and you fail sometimes. And I think we self-sabotage, and I don't know the exact stats, like alcohol and substance abuse, it's a real thing that I think men just numb out. Women do a great job talking to each other and being open with each other. I wish I did that a long time ago because it would have helped me a lot. But yeah, just the denial of like needing to ask for help and thinking that you're weak or a bitch or whatever. Sorry for using those words, but like, yeah.
I mean, that's how men talk. And I think that, one, I have two things. There's one, that effort can be perceived as success. The most money I've ever made in my life has been the last 5 years, every year over year. I haven't gotten happier because of money. Money brings security. So I think that finding happiness in your home life is something that I've really found, and I am blessed with a wife and a kid. And I find my biggest struggle is, I call it the front. I'm the front between my wife and my son. What happens to me in my life, what happens in chaos, in when bullets are flying, all the meetings, I'm not coming home and putting that on them.
Yeah.
It might outlash in a different way unintentionally, and I'll apologize or whatever it is, but my job as a man is to guard my family from the chaos that I live every day. That's my job.
Yep.
Does that mean I fail at that job sometimes? Sure. Yes, but I still think I can be vulnerable and open, but I still have to be that front. I have to be that barrier between my home life and the chaos that I live, because I'm suffering so they don't have to. Now, that's a very masochist way of viewing life, but it's how I was raised. It's like, I'm gonna suffer so you guys are good.
Yep.
My wife is intelligent, she's smarter than me, but she doesn't have to work. That is my gift to my son and to my wife, because my mom worked 18-hour days. My dad traveled 4 days a week. I wanted my wife around my son. So I will literally almost kill myself some days to make sure that that can happen. Now, in a duality, that is also why I continue to suffer, because I am taking on more and more and more and more, and I'm down. But I think everyone is okay with saying, all right, this is the battle I fight. I'm gonna actualize it, I'm gonna say it. It doesn't mean it goes away, but I wanna create structure and routine on, if this is the bandwidth I have, how can I make that a little better?
Well, and you prioritize your mental and physical health, and
I try.
You try. You do.
Right?
Okay. You do a really good job of it, though. Don't lie to people.
I try, but it doesn't mean that internally. Like, I've had a hard week. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a terrible week. I buried a friend 3 weeks ago. I went to his son's football game. It's been emotional. It's been hard, but knowing that I get to come in and have this conversation, knowing that this place is benefiting people's lives, knowing that I have buried 8 friends in 4 years because of mental health and suicide and addiction and all these things, I have one more day to fight. If I make it through that day and I make it home, I'm good. And if I can just keep repeating that cycle again and again and again, that's where I find my joy.
You and I have one of our best friends growing up. His name's Dexter, and he passed away from a fentanyl overdose in 2020.
We lost 3 people on the same batch of that stuff.
It's
in
just
6 weeks, I think. Remick, Wisser, Wimmer, and Dexter.
Yeah.
In 6 weeks.
And it's one of the saddest parts for me is that I look back at, and it's still up there, but like Dexter's second to last tweet was, I wish my boys checked in on me more. And it's like, that's when you read stuff like that, and like, I know you were trying to help him, I was trying to help him, and this is what I say about mental health and addictions the same way. Unfortunately, if that person in the mirror doesn't want to make that change, it's never going to happen. And so I'm lucky that I saw it in myself when it came to suicidal thoughts or alcoholism, and I made those steps. But you can have all these people around you that want to help you, but you ultimately have to make the decision. But you just mentioned 3 guys that we grew up, either high school or college, hung out with, went skiing, snowboarding with. Like, you and I, you sent me a picture of you, me, and Dexter like a year ago. We were at teen night at like 12 years old at Coleraine Bowl on the west side. It's just, when you look back at that stuff, it's sad to think about it, just because, it's sad losing them, but the way you do, and it's just addiction and mental health are such a serious thing that people, I'm so happy now, are taking way more serious than when we were in high school or college.
It's a real issue. It's an epidemic, and people want to focus on Percocet epidemics, but can't focus on their own mental health without any addiction, right? And I think that that's the conversation, and the literal reason that I brought this concept to the other owner, Chris, is because Chris is a lot like me. He's high functioning, high octane. He's going.
Right.
He was one of a client of mine. What are you doing for yourself? Keep it moving, whatever. When I finally found, after my first session, I'm like, Chris, this 1 is a great business, but 2, dude, this really helped me. Like, I don't have to take my medication anymore. Now, there's ups and downs, but if we can continue to evoke change through a vessel of business or speaking,
right,
you still have to remind yourself, regardless of how bad some days are, you're doing everything you possibly can to help everyone in your community. That's a dub. That's
and
a
yourself,
win.
and yourself.
And yourself. I selfishly get happier from helping other people. It's an addiction, but it's, yeah.
You're a good guy, that's why.
Thank you. It's a great conversation. I wasn't ready for this today. But we have a powerful relationship, and if it's me, it's me. If it's someone else, it's someone else. I haven't been on your podcast, but that was not meant to be a dig.
I know it wasn't.
Have you had a guest that...
Can we share why we're such good friends?
If you want to, that's not my story to tell.
Yeah, I mean,
And I don't know if I want to cry today, but I will.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell it, and we'll see if you cry then, you big, badass guy. So Pat and I tell this story everywhere I go. I'm just going to tell it totally uncensored, and you can take out what you want to take out. So basically, freshman year of high school, this is when MySpace was a thing. So I'm sure we were in each other's top 8 on MySpace. But I had sent a picture to a girl. She probably sent me maybe 10, 15. We're like 14 years old. Didn't say anything to anyone, didn't send it to anyone. I'll never forget being in the front row of a football game and looking at everybody on their phones. You can seeing phones get passed around, people pointing, laughing at me. And this is before people knew what sexting was. Like, phones had just come out. This is 2007. And that moment was the first time that I ever thought that I didn't want to be here. I didn't know what suicide was. I just knew I could not deal with that. And I remember you and Ryan Jesse as the 2 kids that invited me to sit with them at lunch, to go to the football games no one else wanted to. And I just told the 2 schools I was at before we're doing this interview, without those 2 guys, without you, I'm probably not here doing that speech. I'm probably not here doing this podcast, because no one would talk to me. Nobody understood me. You and I were friends, but like, we really weren't that good of friends. You just saw that I was struggling, I think, and you didn't ask, hey, are you depressed? Hey, are you sad? You just saw it, and you and Ryan stepped in where if I didn't have you guys, you know, as a 14-year-old suicidal for the first time, a lot of things are very instantaneous within 2 to 3 hours of those happening. These suicide prevention, you know, experts that I work with say, unfortunately, within 2 or 3 hours of that picture getting leaked or something on Snapchat or the internet, a kid takes their own life, a teen loses their life because of it. And so I've always been very, very grateful of that relationship with you and you being there for me for that. But we didn't talk about that until like 10 years later. I had no idea why it wasn't, I don't think it was the same situation as me, but a similar situation happened to you, and I didn't know that, and you kind of saw yourself in me, and that's why you helped me. So thank you for that.
You're very, very, very welcome, man. Yeah. It's hard for people to conceptualize that I was one of the bigger kids in classes, or the class size-wise. I had a scholarship offer as a 14-year-old kid, and I was bullied worse than a lot of kids that I've ever seen in my life. And it took me a long time to realize that because I had a goal and a vision and a dream and wasn't afraid to tell people about it, that they were going to use that as kryptonite to you. And I don't think that I knew exactly what you were going through, because our stories were different. Mine was because of sports, yours was because of a girl, but kids are mean, man. Like,
yeah.
You know, and I think that, especially because we have a big youth population at Contrast, that's why I'm very personal to it, because if I didn't have certain people around me, if I didn't have sports, that's when I really fell in love with the weight room. If I didn't have that, it wouldn't have been a good scenario for me. So I think that the best thing kids can do is, if you're struggling and see someone else struggling, you don't have to find out why they are all the time.
Yeah.
It's giving them a space and saying, you know what, I'm sorry that happened to you, dude. I really am.
Yep.
I'm really sorry that happened, but because of that, I'm just gonna give you some space. Yep. I'm just gonna be here. I don't have to fix it for you. I can't fix it for you.
I can listen, I can be that shoulder.
But just knowing that I'm here and knowing that I'll give you some space was enough for me to definitely feel good. So I appreciate you telling that story, dude.
Yeah, and it's funny looking back, because I don't know why the fuck people made fun of you. You were a good-looking kid. You worked really hard. You had a scholarship to go play college football as a freshman, and I clearly remember that going in my head, like, I'm like dorky and 5'4" and wanted to be on TV. But guess what? And this isn't talking shit about anyone. It's funny to look at the 2 kids that had the biggest dreams in our class.
We're doing all right, buddy.
Yeah, we're fucking
right.
awesome, huh?
We're doing all right.
Sorry, that was random.
You're good.
I tell that story all the time. And I thought I wanted to, at least I want to give you flowers to your face.
Thank you.
We didn't cry though, so that's good.
I did internally. I had a couple moments where I was looking up.
Yeah, I saw it.
But looking back on some of your like toughest moments, what do you think the turning point was that it's like, all right, dude, screw it, I need help? I started going to therapy and had psychologists working with me as young as 9.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
Well, I had severe learning disabilities. I've been
Yeah.
a troubled kid. I never slept. I could go on and on, a list longer than the alphabet. But I didn't give in to the help until it was almost too late. So I had a very big turning point.
Yeah.
And I don't care if my wife gets mad at me. She packed her bags. She was out. She was gone.
Yep.
Unless you get help. Because I was working 18 hours a day. I was coming home, falling asleep at the wheel, falling asleep at the table, eating, falling asleep crying. Like, I'm going to be honest, I was grinding to start Black Sheep with no college degree or whatever it was. My turning point was losing someone that really loved me. And I'm like, all right, dude, screw it. I'm going back to therapy. And that was 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. What was the big turning point for you?
I think it was just getting to that rock bottom 2 years ago of being like, suicidal thoughts had come at 14, off and on through college, professional life. You're in TV, you're bouncing around, living in different cities, you're on the road a lot. And so I think it was finally like just 3 months of everything happening. I lost 3 family members, like you remember my cousin Ben, basically my brother, he had a heart attack at 32, and then the relationship stuff. Finally thought I found that person, and then that just turned out to be a really toxic relationship and really hard breakup. I don't even know if you know this, but like we worked together at the time, so like that was a big secret, and so I couldn't even like get away from that relationship at work because
that's tough.
Yeah, and so I think I just got to the point of feeling that every single day, and then realizing there's nothing I could do about it. Like that's what I had dreamed of, was that perfect wife-family relationship, and I thought I was going to have that with her.
Never perfect though, right?
It is never perfect.
Never.
But in your mind, when you're striving for that your whole life, like I thought this was it, and then when it's ripped out from under you, and both of us did things wrong. I did plenty wrong, so did she. But when I lost that, I just couldn't hold on any longer. And so I finally, after a lot of nights of, walking across the Roebling Bridge in Cincinnati, or, I wrote a goodbye letter sober, and, other things. It's just, you eventually realize you just can't do it by yourself. And I had no other option but to tell my mom and be like, what the fuck do I do? Kids ask me every time I'm at a school speaking, like, how'd you have the courage to tell your mom? It's like, I didn't have any courage at all. I didn't have a choice. You have to tell somebody how you're feeling. That's the only way that you're gonna be able to seek help and feel better one day. And so I think that was the rock bottom for me, because I just was struggling so bad on my own. And then I had turned to alcohol, and I mean, you're very aware of how big of a partier I was. It's like,
oh, you were not alone in that.
We've had some days together, but I got to the point of, I can't do this anymore. I need help.
It's the same thing for me. I mean, this is even on the paper, but like, we've talked about a lot of dark things, and I don't want people to think that we walk around dark and unhappy all the time. I want people to understand that it's a constant battle and a constant struggle, and I'm not always willing to talk about it. It has to be the right time, the right place, the right setting. I'm doing it in the lobby of Contrast, which is ironic because it's something I believe that my life's mission is to create living vessels that evoke change in people. And it's like, if I'm sitting in the lobby of something that came from suffering, we're doing it right. You're gonna go in front of kids tonight from suffering, you're doing it right. So with all the darkness, what makes you happy, dude?
You're asking me what makes me happy?
Yes.
I'm actually happy with myself, which I had never been before. That's why I was seeking it in the relationships and the jobs and money or women. Like, it just doesn't, I had never had it in myself. And so really what makes me happy is having conversations like this and just living that true purpose. Like, you know how it is. We're both super stressed out. Our schedules are crazy. We're investing a ton of money and betting on ourselves, and it takes a toll on you. But really what makes me happy is just finally having the peace with myself, where the biggest thing for me, it's been a theme throughout the entire conversation, and you've known this since I was in high school, like I want to get married one day. Like, and I want that relationship, and that's what's tore me apart from, losing that big relationship to the casual dating, whatever it is. That's been the big thing in my life that I've missed and has hurt me with my mental health, being single and being alone. But I'm finally at the point from about a year and a half ago to now where I don't care anymore. Now, I want to get married one day. I still want to have that dream wife and family that I've always wanted, but it's not what I wake up every moment like striving for and paranoid about and swiping on a dating app or sliding DMs or anything stupid like that. It's just, I'm okay being me. And I think that's what makes me happy, is just, I don't have a problem rolling down my windows and listening to the same song 20 times because I know it's going to make me feel better. I don't have a problem going and shooting basketball in my neighborhood in LA and I look like a creep because I'm 31 years old and usually it's, kids out there playing. I just want to be me and enjoy life, and I've never felt like that until about a year and a half ago, which is crazy because looking from the outside, anyone or my friends would think I was A-okay, but like I really hated myself for a long time.
I think that the obsession with whatever you're really chasing, like for me, it's complete financial freedom so I can buy a farm and live with my family.
Yeah.
I don't want $100 million. I don't want, I don't want Forbes. It's just not me. So when I started to realize that it was going to happen in due time, and it's going to happen when I'm ready for it, not when I force it, because everything I forced in my life is blown up in my face.
Yep.
And really accepted that, whatever you believe in, God, universe, whatever that is, kind of putting faith in something bigger than yourself has really helped me. But what is, a lot about my life. What is next for your podcast? For Mental Game, what's up?
Wow.
What's
well, we just moved to LA 3 months ago, so that's been an adjustment. I am as Cincinnati as it gets. I love being back here, but I really do feel like a home there. Yeah. And it is really cool to have, I live in a smaller place, and the studio that we shoot the show is 20 feet away in the same house. So it's just really, really cool for me to be able to be in a spot where at any point in time, someone can pop in and have a conversation.
You can rip content, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's been like to have, and I was able to do that here. Our mutual friend Kirk Herbstreit came on, and that was super, super fun to have him on the show. But like, for me, just being able to feel like I'm creatively free, and one day I hope to be, financially free, not because I want a bunch of money, but because I was an alcoholic. I always spent my money. I have no savings account still to this day. When I started this, I was driving Uber and getting recognized, and it was so embarrassing, but it's what I had to do to get started. But yeah, next to the podcast, I just want to keep growing it, have these, bigger guests, better conversations. But really my favorite thing to do is what I'm doing here in Cincinnati this week, is talking to people in person, whether it's 20 people at a recovery center to 3,000 people at a theater or an arena. It's just telling my story and seeing how it can affect people and maybe motivate them because they see Sam talking about it on the screen or you talking about it on the screen and go, oh, okay, I relate to Brandon and Pat's story. Yeah. I want to go to therapy now, or I want to ask for help. That's my favorite part about it, because every single time I speak, and it's depressing and sad that this is real, but it's true. It just happened today with 2 kids. Every single time somebody comes up to me and says, hey man, like I'm suicidal right now. I've never really told anybody. Where do I go? What do I do? And that's what makes it worth it to me, because that's the purpose of giving them a safe space to feel that way. I mean, shit, I had a kid yesterday at an orphanage that it's like kids stay there 24/7. They go to school there, orphanage school altogether, like for kids that might be struggling with their mental health. And a kid told me, that he had just, attempted yesterday. Yeah. And it's like, he gets made fun of because he's small and he plays basketball, and kids say they can throw him out of the gym because he's 4 foot whatever, and he's just getting emotional with me. And it's like, fuck dude, what do you do with that? And it's just, you try to give him everything tangible to move forward. And it's if it's giving him like a free shirt or taking a picture with him because he can look at that in the future. But it's just, when you hear those stories, I think about the 14-year-olds that we were struggling with our stuff. And it's like, we never had, and I'm not patting us in the back, it could have been anyone. We never had anyone like us around that would say, hey man, keep going, or hey, like, it's going to get better. It's not the end of the world. These feelings are temporary. They aren't facts. Like, just keep going, man. And so that's my favorite thing going forward, because I'm starting to speak and be able to visit places that I never had thought I would go. And it's because of taking care of my mental health. And all I want people to take away from listening to me speak is like, hey, you can do the exact same thing that you and I are doing right now. And so that's my favorite thing. That's what I'm going to continue to do. I mean, I'm going, like, you know, I did the tour to 30 states in 30 days. That was so stupid.
That was awesome.
No, it was awesome, but driving it every mile it was hard, but it was worth it. And now it gives me a space where I can have those conversations. So for me, that's my favorite thing that I'm going to keep on building. The podcast gives me the platform to do it, but those in-person things are hands down, no questions asked, my favorite thing to do.
Well, I can tell you, the last thing I'll say is that, one, I'm about to run 50 miles to my friend who died, so I'm going to torture myself next Sunday. It's going to take me 12 hours. It's going to be miserable, but it needs to be done to raise awareness and money for his family. But
an amazing man, Nick Mundy, by the way.
Just the best, bro. The absolute best. But what I want you to lean in on, and this is, I don't care if the cameras are rolling or not, is I've never been more proud that you went to LA. Humans have 6 inherent needs, and one of them is variability. I moved to Colorado with $300 in my pocket and slept on couches and learned how to train. Met my wife. The best thing that ever happened to me is I took a chance on myself. No one else believed in it. I lost business partners, I lost friends, I lost a lot of things, but going and taking a chance on yourself is by far the most admirable thing a man can do when no one else believes in it but you. So
well, thank you.
Respect, dog.
I appreciate that, and I get motivation by having friends like you that do the same thing. I mean, I never thought in a million years this is what I'd be doing. I remember quitting my sports job, and my brother designed a logo. Sam was the test dummy interview, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I was driving Uber to make ends meet. The fact that I can live in LA now, and it's...
Don't miss it though. Smell the coffee. It's gonna go fast.
I know. I'm trying to soak it all in. I do like being back here. I've had Skyline 3 times in 4 days, which probably isn't great for my physical health, but it tastes.
Can't stand Skyline.
We don't have to end on a Cincinnati food debate, but I'm so proud of you too, man.
Thank you so much.
Like us going back and forth here, like just so anyone watching or listening, we've done this via text for the last 15 years.
It was like a therapy session where I feel great. I had a really rough week and I feel good now, so I appreciate you.
Well, I want to say this too. I love you. Like, there's not people that are afraid to say that to just, maybe not their significant other or family members. I say that with everyone. I've known Lindsay wherever she went. I'll say I love you when I leave her here. Like, I just met you guys. I'll say I love you to you. Like, I don't care. Like, after what you go through those moments, you just don't take anything for granted anymore. So I tell my friends, family members, coworkers, but yeah, I love you, man.
Love you too, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Love you, dude.